I believe it was last year, IFL and Maine came out with a really cool New York City limited edition. This had a hand-painted graffiti dial, and they sold out very quickly. Today we get a second edition. This is a Gotham theme, so Gotham Watch Club. Obviously, I had to have this watch here on my channel. This is a New York City inspired graffiti dialed watch that takes inspiration from the night. It still gets a hand-painted dial and it is awesome. I have one hands-on to show you guys, so let's flip the camera and take a look at the latest Manhattan creation, New York City creation from Maine and IFL. Here's the watch. So this is their integrated bracelet watch. They've had this out for a few years now. They make a slim version. This is the automatic version, so it is still very slim, but it has an automatic movement rather than a hand-wound movement. Also, that slim line gets a sub-seconds, but I don't think that would work with this collaboration because this gets a hand-painted dial. Everything that you see on the dial is hand painted. This is a very different version. The previous version was colorful. This one is more subdued. So you're not going to notice that this is a limited edition right away. You're not going to notice that this dial is hand painted right away. And in my opinion, that's really not a bad thing. This is the Manhattan. That's what they call it. So this is the Manhattan After Dark #2. So this is a collaboration with IFL. They make a lot of hand-painted dials, limited edition, so they take watches and hand-paint their dials. And, of course, Maine, who make this watch. This is an homage to a vintage Vacheron, a Vacheron that is pretty obscure, actually. And that's in the case shape. The bracelet's a little bit different, but you definitely can see that. And this is, I believe, a three-piece case, at least a three-piece case, because the lugs are screwed into the case. And then you have screws that hold in the bracelet. So it's a really nicely made case. You get a sapphire crystal, applied indices that get a lot of lume, and then you have a very oddly shaped bezel that follows the case shape, which looks really good. And then when you flip it over, you have a solid case back that is sterile, but it is a screwed in case back. And then you can see those screws that hold in the bracelet, which looks really good. And then you have a double push button enclosure. You have to fold one side and then the other. A very deeply engraved M for the brand name on one side, which looks really good. And the bracelet flows really nicely. You have screwed links. You don't get a screwed in crown, but you do get 100 meters of water resistance because this is meant to be their integrated bracelet sports watch. So there's a lot going on the dial. It says Gotham right in the middle. And they reached out to me right away and they said, hey, do you want to review this watch because of Gotham Watch Club? It says Gotham on the dial. I said, absolutely. I think this is just really cool. Of course, I am from New York and I love New York. And I love this design because it reminds me of New York after dark. There's graffiti on the walls in New York in certain areas, and this does evoke that feeling. And there's a little bit of Batman inspiration here as well. There's a bat somewhere on that dial. When I was looking at it closely before, you almost can't tell this is a painted dial. They do these so well, and the fact that they're painting 300 of them or 150, whatever it is, by hand, and they all look pretty similar is pretty impressive. Whoever is doing it, I'm not sure if it's one artist or a number of artists, but it is a very impressive task to do that. And like I was saying, those indices are very bright. Those are applied, and then the dial is painted. So I'm not sure if they paint the dial and then apply the indices. I believe they probably paint the dial and then apply the indices because that would make more sense. And then even at the bottom of the dial, it says Manhattan 37, but that's painted over, which is a nice little touch. And the hands are very Art Deco. They use very Art Deco hands no matter what because they are heavily inspired by Art Deco design. And the hands, I would describe them as skyscraper hands. That's how I would describe them. And they are loomed as well, and you have a needle for the seconds hand. I've mentioned it a few times, but this is the 37mm version. I don't know if they make any other versions currently, but this is the Manhattan 37mm. It actually measures in just under 37mm. It's around 36.8mm is what I measured, but you have a long lug to lug of around 47mm. That's including the end links, but it does fold down pretty straight down. So it's just slightly larger. I would say it's like 47.8 or 0.9, somewhere in that range. So it's just slightly larger. But because you have that long lug to lug, it will wear almost like a tonneau shaped case integrated bracelet. So that inherently will wear larger. And then it's under 10 millimeters thick with a Sellita SW200 inside, so a Swiss-made movement inside. That is pretty thin considering you're getting 100 meters of water resistance, a screwed-in case back, and the sapphire crystal, which is flush with the bezel on here. So that does make sense. You have brushing on the top of that bezel and then polishing on the sides. And then the case, you get the same treatment, brushing on the top of the case, and then you have a beautiful edge along the case and the bracelet that is polished. That brushing goes through the bracelet as well, and then like I said, you get a nice line of polish that goes along the very tapering bracelet. I want to point out, because a lot of brands get this wrong, this is excellent. A very tapering bracelet on a watch like this makes a lot of sense. It makes it wear more elegant, more wearable in general. I like that. On my wrist today, I have a Farah. This is one of their newest releases with a beautiful Fume blue dial. Video for this dropping really soon. Just a gorgeous watch. And there is the Manhattan After Dark, the IFL limited edition version 2 on my 7.5 inch wrist. And you can see it wears very, very nicely. And I would say this is more versatile than the version 1 because this can be worn in almost any situation, because that dial is somewhat subdued when compared to the original version. It's also thin. It will fit under a cuff very, very easily, under 10 millimeters thick. And I should say thin because it's actually pretty thin. 37 millimeters, and then you have a lug to lug of 47 millimeters, just about 47 millimeters. It's over 47 millimeters, but not that much more. So I think it wears great on my 7.5 inch wrist. Let's take a look at the Lume and talk about price. Well, where it is applied, it is very liberally applied. I only have 2 comments, really. One, this is a dress watch technically, so the fact that it has 100 meters of water resistance is great. I wish they put a little bit of Lume on the seconds hand. Also, I think it's a little bit of a missed opportunity. They could have put some Lume in the paint and maybe Lume the dial a little bit. That would have been pretty cool. But I guess, maybe that would increase the price dramatically, make it a lot more difficult for them to paint it. So I would understand why they weren't able to do that. So that would be my only 2 comments on this watch. I think it's a really good looking watch. I really like the design, the original inspiration for this watch. And then I really like what they have done with the dial. A hand painted dial is just something special. Price on this is $1,499. I think that's a pretty good price considering what you are getting here. Sellita SW200, sapphire crystal, really nice case, really nice bracelet, and then of course a hand-painted one-of-a-kind dial. Yes, there are a number of them being painted, but they are all hand-painted, so just inherently, that means they are all very unique and no other dial will be exactly the same as every other dial. Pretty cool. I think that's a really good price. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I like Gotham. I like the idea of it. And I like Batman in general as well. I know this is not an official collaboration with Batman, but you mentioned Gotham, New York, and you put a bat in the dial. Obviously, they are taking some inspiration from Batman. Tell me what you guys think down in the comment section below. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this watch? What do you think of the dial? I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. I believe there is an order window that ends on November 9th. So if you want this watch, you got to order it before November 9th. I believe that's how it works. But if not, I will put a link to their website down in the description below. Go to their website. I'm sure it is all ironed out there, the exact dates when you need to order this watch. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. Thank you for watching this video. I will catch you guys in the next video.